Good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday, November 18th. From the San Antonio Express-News, my name is Luis Vasquez, and this is your Express Briefing. All of the stories you need to know to start your day. You could expect sunny skies and a high of 77 degrees in San Antonio today. Join the Express-News Editorial Board at 9 a.m. for a conversation with CPS Energy President and CEO Paula Williams and other officials about possible rate increases, as well as an outside effort to change the utility's governance structure. Soon, patients will be able to get checked out for COVID-19 and the flu with just one test. You can read more about the combination test that can deliver results within 48 hours of receiving the samples at expressnews.com. Also, the NBA draft is tonight, and the Spurs have the number 11 pick. It'll be the team's highest pick since taking Tim Duncan in 1997. We'll have full coverage this evening over at expressnews.com. And now, let's get into the top stories for the day. As President Donald Trump continues to claim falsely that he won the November 3rd election, some of his most prominent Texas allies are acknowledging that they don't expect to see him in the White House after January 20th. It will probably be Joe Biden, U.S. Senator John Cornyn told reporters on Monday, offering his strongest pushback yet to the president's assertions. "I haven't seen anything that would change the outcome," he said. U.S. Senator Ted Cruz, who has described Trump's legal challenges of the election results as an uphill battle, has yet to go so far. But Cruz has voiced frustration with the president's legal team. For Cornyn and Cruz, the final weeks of Trump's term have resumed the same rhythm that he's held for much of his presidency. Benjamin Wormund has more in his latest column. Sightseeing bus operator David Strange started his business nearly 10 years ago, but his connections to bus tours goes back more than 2 decades. It started in his hometown of Oxford, England, and took him to the U.S. in 2009. He settled on San Antonio, and in December 2010, with $300,000 borrowed from his family, he started City Sightseeing San Antonio. The tour company is affiliated with City Sightseeing in Seville, Spain, which provides reservation and marketing services. Strange's tour company is the only one in the U.S. affiliated with City Sightseeing that has resumed operations since COVID-19 shut down business in March. We talked with Strange about the founding of his company in San Antonio and its recent challenges. If you thought things were bad when Texas topped 1 million COVID-19 cases, guess what? Researchers estimate that at least 4 times as many people have actually caught the virus. An estimated 1 out of every 6 Texans, roughly 4.75 million people, have contracted COVID-19, according to a recent statistical analysis by the University of Texas at Austin COVID-19 Modeling Consortium. The analysis estimates that the virus is spreading rapidly and so far has infected more than 16% of people in Texas, far more than the state's official tally. We have how researchers arrived at their conclusions at expressnews.com. It's not hard to identify the symptoms of a Trumper tantrum, writes columnist Gilbert Garcia. When President Trump experiences rejection, criticism, or anything else that gives him a bad case of cognitive dissonance, he lashes out, either by firing someone, attacking the press, or claiming there is some conspiracy to cheat him out of his rightful reward. His latest Trumper tantrum is entering week number 3, as the president refuses to acknowledge his defeat at the hands of former Vice President Joe Biden. Garcia adds, the most conspicuous element of Trump's haphazard election challenge is its utter predictability. After all, he telegraphed it months ahead of the election. Read the full column for a look at the way Trump's 2020 claims mirror those from 2016. This week, the Poodle Politics crew interviewed Commissioner-elect Rebecca Clay Flores. Hear more about her improbable campaign and her hopes for Precinct 1 on this week's edition of Poodle Politics. Next up are your need-to-know headlines. You can find all of these headlines and more inside of your Express News subscription. Just a few weeks after bars that don't serve food were allowed to reopen, officials are considering closing them again as coronavirus cases continue to escalate in the San Antonio area. Officials reported 292 cases and 3 deaths Monday. We're tracking all of the data at Express-News.com. Convicted felon Brian Alfaro's wife has defaulted on a settlement agreement for her investors who were defrauded by the disgraced San Antonio oil and gas businessman. You can find out what happens next at Express-News.com. A 4-year-old San Antonio boy lost his 33-year-old dad to COVID-19 in June, but he cannot quite grasp that his mother has also died because of the virus. She passed in October. Now, Rayden's grandmother is planning his 5th birthday party. A new economic impact study shows healthcare and bioscience edging out the military as San Antonio's leading industry, generating $42.4 billion in sale of products and services in 2019 and employing nearly 1 in 5 workers within the region. CPS Energy trustees voted this week to extend the utility's energy conservation program, which provides rebates and home upgrades for CPS customers for another year. 3 NASA astronauts, 1 Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut, and Baby Yoda, their zero-G indicator, floated into the International Space Station early Tuesday morning. They will spend 6 months in the space station conducting research. As Thanksgiving break approaches, many Texas colleges are encouraging students to take extra precautions before returning home for the holidays and the remainder of the semester. This includes getting a COVID-19 test before going home. House Democrats are moving ahead on legislation blocking future offshore drilling in the United States, in a sign of support for President-elect Joe Biden's commitment to banning the practice. You may not like business columnist Michael Taylor's ideas, he writes, adding, "So that's why I need to be appointed personal financial benevolent dictator for life in order to make these needed improvements happen." Find out what tax rule changes he would make at Express-News.com. San Antonians may have the lowest per capita incomes among America's 10 most populous cities, but its citizens have demonstrated they are among the wisest stewards of taxpayer money. Chris Tomlinson explains more in his latest column. The Express-News Editorial Board strongly encourages the Texas Education Agency to allow school districts to return to virtual learning to close out the fall semester. You can read the full editorial over at Express-News.com. If the Spurs are lucky, they'll draft someone who'll make them worry. If they're really lucky, they'll draft a guy good enough to demand a trade someday. Sports columnist Mike Finger makes the case for why you're probably thinking about the NBA draft all wrong. At some airports, you still don't have to wear a face mask, as crazy as that seems. We're 8 months into the pandemic, and the scientific consensus is that masks slow the spread of COVID-19. President-elect Joe Biden has pledged to implement federal mask requirements at airports and on planes, saying in an October 23rd speech in Delaware, "Wearing masks is not a political statement, it's a scientific imperative." Travelers may wonder what the fuss is about since all airliners in the U.S. require passengers to wear masks, as do airports. Still, there are no federal rules requiring masks, leading to gaps in containment efforts. Randy Diamond breaks it all down in this week's Wary Traveler. There will be no Tim Duncan available for the Spurs in tonight's draft, but they stand a good chance of adding to their core young talent. We have everything you need to know about the team's first lottery pick in more than 2 decades over at Express-News.com. For every This Saves Lives snack bar sold, a malnourished child gets a meal distributed through hunger relief organizations. You can read more about the snacks launched by Kristen Bell, now available at HEB over at Express-News.com. The first film in Steve McQueen's anthology, Small Acts, tops our list of what's new or notable in home video this week. After 3 months of preseason practice, the Incarnate Word football team learned Tuesday that it will not have to wait until spring for its first game of the year, instead traveling to face Arkansas State on December 12th. And that's all for today. This was your Express briefing for Wednesday, November 18th. My name is Luis Vasquez. Please consider becoming an Express News subscriber to get in-depth coverage on all the stories you heard today. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast inside of your Apple Podcast app, as it really helps the show. Have a wonderful day, everyone.